Okay, sorry everybody. I think I'm live and I haven't realized it. Hello everybody. If I've been sitting here and you've been waiting for me to start, the technology is not working so well right now, so my apologies for that. It's Fiona Lukey's here, and I am here for the Friday live. We've started a bit earlier this week because I know for a lot of you, times have changed. The US and Canada have gone into daylight savings. Australia's now gone into fallback, or so that sometimes the times have changed massively. And I'm trying to do these lives at a time that is a little bit easier for those of you who are in the US and Canada, and especially the Eastern time zone people. I mean, I know it's still pretty late for you guys, but I'm trying to find a time that's kind of going to work for everybody. So we're trying this new time out. I've been running behind in my sessions this morning, so I know I'm starting late. But I'm here now, and I want to say a big welcome to you guys. If you've just joined me for the live, feel free to say hi and let me know where you are in the world. This is my first live in a couple of weeks. Last week it was Easter and I was still recovering from COVID. COVID really flattened me, I've got to say. And then the week before that, I was right in the middle of COVID. I just tested positive that day and I was really unwell. So this is my first live in a couple of weeks with you guys. So love to know if you've just tuned in and you want to say hi, let me know where you are in the world and where you're listening from. Always like to know who's out there so that I know I'm not just speaking to myself. And if you have a comment or a question or anything that you want to ask me, feel free to post it in the comments below and I'll do my absolute best to answer it for you. Okay, so I'm now fully recovered from COVID. It's been a long process, I've got to say, but feeling really good and really excited to be with you guys again. I really miss doing these lives. I love being able to be of service and answer any questions and help that I can. I've had lots of different questions come in at me this week, and things come up in my client work and with my my relatable students. So lots of things to talk about today, but if you do have a question, feel free to post it in the comments below and I will do my absolute best to answer it for you. And if you are listening from somewhere in the world, please say hi and let me know where you are listening from. So I thought today, I was doing a live yesterday in one of my private Facebook groups, and we were talking about how to get past and deal when betrayal has happened in a relationship. And that's something that I wanted to touch on a little bit with you guys today, because it's been something that's definitely cropped up quite a bit this week. And I know that this is an important topic for people and people can really get stuck on it. One of the biggest reasons why relationships fail is, you've heard me say this before, people have a chronic overthinking addiction and they don't know it. And secondly, people don't understand how to navigate their own and somebody else's emotional reactions, okay? And this is a really important thing when it comes to navigating things like betrayal, and betrayal can come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. There's affairs, there's people breaking promises, there's people betraying you in revealing personal details about you that you don't want to be revealed. There's lots of different ways betrayal can show up. However, the solution, the answer to it is the same. All right, that's the great thing about it. So there's different ways in which betrayal shows up in our lives and our relationships, but the answer is the same. Now I've got a couple of, hey Antoinette, darling, hello, nice to see you. And hey Roz, thanks for saying hi. If anybody is watching and you haven't said hi, please say hi. I always like to know where you are in the world and that there are people out there. So I'm just looking at your question here, Ant, about relationship to career. Hello, darling. What to do when you feel a gap between what you want and what you're experiencing. Hey, Franca. Hi, nice to see you. Hello there. Hey, Vicky. Hi, Vicky from Turanga. I hope I've said that correctly in New Zealand. Hi, Vicky. Thanks for saying hi. I really appreciate that. Hey, Angela. Haven't spoken to you for ages. I know we're speaking on Monday, so looking forward to that. Thanks for saying hi. And oh, beautiful Maz. Hello, darling. Thanks for saying hi. Hello. Hi, everybody. It's so nice when people say hi to me. Can you see how excited I get? Okay, so if you've just joined us, feel free to say hi. And hi, Diane. Hi. Nice to see you. Thanks so much for saying hi. I really appreciate it. Okay, so Antoinette, your question is relationship to career. What to do when you feel a gap between what you want and what you're experiencing. Hey, Deezer. Hi, darling. Hi, Tanya. Hello. Thanks for saying hi, guys. I think I might need a little bit more information, and I'm guessing, like, if I was to read between the lines here, what you're saying is, and I'll just put it up here. So, what you're saying is you thought what would you be experiencing in your career would be one thing, and what you are getting is not that. Is that right? Is that what you're saying? Because for me, always, and whilst I'm waiting for you to respond, for me, always, what I find is that when there's a gap anywhere, okay, because you're talking about a gap here, right? Whenever there's a gap in my life between my expectations, right? Because you're really talking about your expectations and your experience. Okay, that's really what you're talking about here, your expectations and your experience of something. And I think this is really, really important, and can certainly tie in with what I was talking about earlier, because, you know, expectations are huge when it comes to us feeling disappointed, let down, frustrated. We bring these into our relationships. We bring these into our careers. We bring this into our parenting. We bring this everywhere in our lives, right? This is why Expectations is a bonus program I created in Relatable for that exact reason, because it brings so many people unstuck and people don't understand them. So I guess what you're saying here, you've got an expectation about how it would be, and what you're experiencing is very different to your expectations. Now, no, I understand that, honey, that you were clear with your expectations, but you got to understand what an expectation is, because not every expectation, okay, is necessarily worthy of our time and our attention. I know that might sound a bit strange, right? Not every expectation is worthy of our time or attention. So what I find is, if there's a gap between my expectations and what I'm experiencing, I'm always waiting for wisdom to speak. Okay, always. And I'm always looking in for, what is my relationship like with wisdom? What is the feeling I'm in? Because the feeling you're in is a direct correlation with the energy you produce, right? So people often say, because we talk about this a lot, right? It is your energy that is interacting with life before you are. I'm going to say that again. It is your energy that is always interacting with life before you are. And so your energy is what creates your experience. And I was actually just saying this with someone I was speaking to earlier today. You know, when it comes to our relationships, for example, people's energies interact first before people interact physically. Okay? People's energies interact first before people interact physically. Always the case. So if you're in a feeling of disappointment, okay, so you might have an expectation of, this is what I want, but you're in a feeling of disappointment. The feeling of disappointment is the predominant energy. Doesn't matter how much writing and manifesting you do. Manifestation is a direct reflection of the energy or the feeling you are in, always. So if you're in a reflection or a feeling of, someday I'll get this. At some point, this will happen. I just need this to be different. You're actually in an energy of lack. It is so important. And look, I'm in the middle of creating a whole program about this because I think it is so important, and it's very important in our relationships in every area of our life, right? But it is so important. And this is where you've got to understand the power of our imagination. You've got to understand the way thought works and all of these things that I talk about, right? Because the understanding of all of these things is what brings you to a moment of now where what you are creating in your now, right? What you are creating in your moment of now is as if it's already happened. So we don't realize as humans, and we get really stuck on this, when there's a gap between what we want and what is, when there's a gap, we get really focused on the how, don't we? But how can I do this? How people ask me this all the time. How can I change my thinking? You can't. You actually can't. That's a whole other conversation. How do I do this? How do I make myself feel better? How do I get what I want? How do I attract that relationship? How do I this? How do I that? See, the problem is, okay, as human beings, we are always being asked to trust in something we can't see. Always. And this is the hardest thing for people to understand. We are always being asked to trust in something we can't see. We are always being asked to trust in something that's intangible. And this is the hardest thing. So because people can't see it, because it's intangible, they get caught up in the how. But you've got to understand it's your trust that creates the how. The minute you get caught up in the how, what you're saying is, I don't have this, there is lack. And so that is what you are creating and producing and putting out into the world. Now, when you understand that you are the creator, we are the creator. This is such a hard thing for people to get their head around, but when you see it, it's incredibly empowering. You are the creator of your experience. Don't hear this as fault or blame. Please don't hear this. This is not what I'm saying. This has got nothing to do with fault and blame. Okay. We're playing a much higher level of conversation than that. That's a low level conversation. I'm not talking about blame. I'm not victim blaming here. I'm not blaming anybody, but you have to see your own power, and you have to see that you are the creator of your experience. People don't understand this. They think their experience is being created for them all the time. People continuously live out of the illusion that their experience is being created for them. They do not understand that they are the creator of it. Now, unless you understand this, you are always going to feel like you are at the mercy of your experience, right? Now, when I say the experience, I mean what you're feeling, what you're seeing, what's showing up for you in your awareness, okay? That's what I mean by experience. So people always get, when they don't understand that they are the creator, they find themselves at the mercy of life or their experience. They find themselves at the mercy of a person. They find themselves at the mercy of their feelings. They find themselves at the mercy of the economy, the mercy of their finances, the mercy of their job, the mercy of something external. Okay? Hey, Daryl, nice to see you. I haven't heard from you for ages. Really nice to see you. Now, it's really important. If you want to change that, you have to know that you are the creator. And not just know it intellectually, deeply know it. That everything in your experience is your creation. Your creation. Now, again, understand, I want you to listen to my language because it's very important. When I talk about creation, okay, I am not talking about two sides of a coin, because there are not two sides of anything. So there's either this or this. It's either good or bad. It's either okay or not okay. It's either successful or unsuccessful. It's either a failure or not a failure. Okay? That's not what I'm talking about. That there is never two sides to anything. Okay? There is unlimited ways of viewing and experiencing anything. Very important. You have to know this, because when people don't understand this, right, they limit themselves. Because they go, well, it's either this or this, and they fight for this or this, and they miss all the opportunity, the abundant opportunity out there. They miss it because their mindset's focused on this or this. So there's a few things to unpack around what I'm saying here right now. But when I talk about you are the creator, right, I don't mean if someone is behaving poorly to you, it's your fault. I don't mean if you're in a job where your boss is rude that it's your fault. I don't mean that, okay? That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is your experience is a direct reflection of you. So how you experience your boss, how you experience your job, how you experience your partner, how you experience uncertainty, right, is a direct reflection of you. It's yours. It's your creation. Now, how do you know what you're creating? You know by the feeling you are in, because feeling equals energy. Okay? Feeling equals energy. Hey, Cecily, did I say, if I haven't, hello, darling. Again, it must be very early in the morning for you. What, about 4:30 in the morning for you there in Norway? Always nice to see you, darling. So first of all, you have to understand that. All right. And then once you understand that, you start to get a sense of your own power, because people feel very disempowered, right? When something looks like it's outside of their experience, when something looks like it's bigger than them, that they are at the mercy of something. And so when it looks that way, we tend to choose fear and lack without realizing it. And that's the feeling and the energy we're in. And of course, if you're in the feeling and the energy of that, you've got to imagine the feeling or the energy is like a big magnifying, horseshoe magnifying. Well, the shape of it doesn't matter, but when your arms are out, it's like a horseshoe, right? And it's sending out an energy field that then is attracting everything that's a match for that energy field, because everything is energy. This is why I talk about the fact in our relationships, and we're not taught this enough, your energy enters the room before you do. So it doesn't matter if you're saying all the right things. If your energy is not a match for what you're saying, the energy will trump it every single time. And this is our biggest blind spot, because people are so caught up in the content of their thinking. They're so caught up in things like mindset, they're completely unaware of the energy they're in. And so they're unaware of what they are unconsciously creating. And it looks like, and I've fallen for this in the past myself, that that it doesn't matter how hard you try, nothing goes your way. Right? It doesn't matter how hard you try, it's relationship Groundhog Day. It doesn't matter how hard I try, nothing works out in my career. It doesn't matter how hard I try, I can't affect change. Now, I want you to know that that isn't what's going on. It looks like it, that's the illusion, right? And there are many things that are an illusion in life, and we don't understand this. Okay? There are many, many things that are an illusion, and they get in the way of our experience of life, of our relationships. And so, of course, this is where people can experience what looks like Groundhog Day, feeling like nothing changes, when they don't realize what they are bringing to the table. And so, once you have an understanding of what you're bringing to the table, then you can actually really affect change the way you want to, from a place of empowerment as opposed to disempowerment. Hang on, I'm just reading a comment here from Ian. Hi, Ian. My therapist is saying that my now ex-partner has a personality disorder, and that anything I do to help or support her will be a futile attempt to fill an empty void in her life. Since hearing this, I've noticed that my reassurance and positivity has remained unacknowledged. Thoughts? Ian, without knowing the ins and outs of this, like, I have no idea if your partner actually has a personality disorder. Like, I don't know. And just because your therapist says they doesn't mean they do. So, like, without knowing the ins and outs of that, I don't know. But what I would be saying to you is, if your partner is in a low mood, okay, and you're trying to fix that mood, it doesn't matter whether they have a personality disorder or not. You often make things worse. Because really what you're saying to that person is, I'm uncomfortable because you're uncomfortable. So can you hurry up and be okay so I can be okay? Okay? And so people don't understand this. When you don't understand moods, when you don't understand the operating system of a human being, which I'm very passionate about teaching people, People become a lot more okay when the other person is not okay. And so they ride through it without projecting their insecurities, even though we have the best of intentions, onto somebody else, and not trying to fix them and make them feel better and reassure them and make, instead you end up allowing the other person to have their experience, right? Because you understand what's going on. You trust the psychological immune system of a human being, and yes, we do have one, and it works beautifully. And you're able to move through that without projecting your fears, worries, and concern. And when we are trying to make someone feel better, we are doing that whether we're aware of it or not. And so it can often make things worse. It can often have people retreat. It can often have people shut down because they feel like they can't express themselves, or they feel like they're not being heard. See, if you're trying to fix someone or change someone's experience, you are not listening. And so, yes, if that's what's going on, it will remain unacknowledged, because you got to understand, when someone is stuck or in a low mood and you're not in the same place emotionally, they don't have the emotional intelligence to hear you, right? You're assuming that they're at the same level of emotional intelligence as you, and they're not. When we are in a low mood, we are in a low level of emotional intelligence. And so we don't have capacity to see the positive stuff. We don't see it in that moment. It doesn't mean that we won't, but in that moment, we don't have it. So you projecting that or trying to build someone up or take them out of it will be futile, because they are not in that space. And this is why people can have what feels like conversations that completely miss one another, right? You're just missing. Now, that's not necessarily because someone has a personality disorder. It's just because you're not understanding their mood and understanding what a low mood tells you. And so you're coming from a space of trying to fix, change, manage, okay? And that does more harm than good. You know, it's a great gift when you can hold space for somebody else. Now, fixing, reassuring, trying to be positive is not holding space. I hope that helps, Ian. Okay. Great question, by the way. Really great question, because it's a very, very common thing that shows up. Okay. This is why you've got to know how to navigate your thinking. You've got to understand the way things work, because all of a sudden it becomes a lot easier to hold space. It becomes a lot easier to be present with someone when they're in a low mood, when they're struggling, okay, than it is to jump in and fix and change and manage. You hold space, Ian, by not trying to fix, change, and manage. You hold space by being okay if she's not okay. You hold space, and I mean genuinely, not pushing it down and ignoring it, but genuinely being okay when someone else is not okay. Like I said, I teach all of this in my online program, Relatable. I teach all of it. But I do have a podcast on holding space, which you can also listen to in that episode. But if you really want to understand this stuff, I teach it step by step in Relatable, all of it. I answer all of these questions. It's very, very clear. It's easy to understand. And I show you these things, you know, because these are things that people misunderstand. And then they start projecting themselves in. So in other words, your energy, you start bringing an energy of, oh, I need you to be okay. Can you feel better, please? Hurry up and feel better. I'm not comfortable with this. Even though you're saying something different, okay? You might be saying all the right things. It's okay. It's all right. But if your energy is different, it's your energy that she's interacting with. We're always interacting energetically before we are interacting physically. So you got to know the energy that you're bringing to something. And I'm telling you, this is people's biggest blind spot. How do I know that? Because I see it every day with my new students in Relatable and in my personal one-on-one work. It's just one of those things we've been not being taught to look for, understand, or really have an experience of. Okay? Yes, but it's the space that you listen from, Ian. Okay? It's the space that you listen from. So yes, you are listening, but it's the space, the energy that you are listening from. So you can listen from a place of worry and, oh God, I hope she feels better soon and I'm really struggling with this, but not say anything. Okay. And I've got to say, most people are poor listeners. They're listening for the words. They're surface level listening. You've got to learn how to deeply, deeply listen. All right. And most of us underestimate our listening abilities. We really do. That is the one thing. Most people will say, I think I'm a pretty good listener. And then they start learning how to listen and they realize that they're not. They're surface level listening, and that's not listening. You've got to listen. You've got to be able to listen to the spirit behind someone's words, not the words. The words are not the most important thing. They are the least important thing. And this is where you've got to understand energy. You've got to understand what's going on for that person. So you speak to what's behind the words, not the words. Right? Very, very, very important. Like I said, I teach all of this step by step in my, I teach how to listen, all of it in my online program, Relatable. Okay. But I would be mindful of what your therapist is saying about her having a personality disorder, because I don't know if that's true. And we're very quick to label people with things. And normally, and I'm not saying people don't have personality disorders, but a lot of people that get diagnosed with personality disorders or a therapist diagnosing someone else is just a lack of understanding that then brings out the worst in people. People's frailties come out, and then it gets labeled as a personality disorder. Okay. You know, people get labeled as being narcissist when really they just, for a lot of people, and believe me, I've had a lot of experience with narcissism, but for example, that's a term that gets bandied around very quickly and easily. And in all the years that I've been doing this, I've only met a very, very small handful of true narcissists. I've had lots of people tell me they think their partner's a narcissist, but when I've started working with them, like a very small handful of people out of all the people I've worked with, because someone can shut down and not listen and be very defensive and not hear someone just because they're stuck in insecure thinking, not because they have a personality disorder or because they're a narcissist. And so once they understand how we work as people, that stuff starts to fall away, because they now know how to show up the way they really want to. They're not frightened of their emotions. They know how to deal with emotional reactions of themselves and somebody else. They feel more confident in who they are, more grounded. And so that just show up really, really differently. Okay. So you see this stuff happening all the time. So anyway, I hope that helps. Thank you so much for the question, Ian. And Antoinette, if you're still listening, I hope that what I was sharing with you before helps a little bit, right? We've got to know, we've got to understand our own power. We've got to understand the way energy works, and we've got to understand how we are showing up, so we can actually make sure that we are a match for what we actually want. Because for a lot of the times we think we are a match for something when we're energetically, we are the complete opposite of it, right? So now I'm just going to do a check-in here. Is this making sense to people? Does anyone have any questions before I finish up? Because I'm going to have to finish this live pretty soon. So I just want to check in. Oh, my pleasure, Ian, my pleasure. Anyone have a question, anything else that they want to ask me, anything that they need clarity around what I have said today? Let me know if you do. I'll just wait for 1 second. Okay. Here's the link to my Relatable program, because a couple of you have always asked me for that. Brooke. Hi, Brooke. Hi, Fiona. When we're in a low feeling, what things can we say to make others feel comfortable with our low feeling? Well, you can't always make someone feel comfortable, right? But if you're taking ownership over your own experience, and this is something very few people actually do, okay, because they get frightened of it, right? So I'm not saying this from a place of blame or judgment of anyone, but we struggle to take ownership over our experience because we get frightened by it. So people who are in a low feeling get frightened and they get worried, and you know that you're frightened or worried because you're saying things to yourself like, what's the matter with me? I wish I wasn't feeling this way. Oh my God, I don't like feeling this way. Why am I having these thoughts in my head? Da, 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 right? That's you getting frightened. And then you get sped up, and then your energy becomes a match for that. Okay. And then you tend to become reactionary or shut down. You tend to not have so much bandwidth for things. Okay. So it's really important. If you're in a low feeling, just own it. Say, hey, I'm not in the best frame of mind. I'm not all that emotionally intelligent right now. Can we talk about this later? Or, sometimes I'll say to my kids, look, I'm in a bit of a low mood. I wouldn't take anything I have to say too seriously right now. I know I'm not very patient, so just ignore me. Okay. So this is me taking ownership of how I'm showing up. I'm not justifying it. I'm not defending it. I'm just taking ownership over it. Okay. When you do that, people tend to be very understanding and they tend to relax. Why? Because most people, when you're in a low mood, will think it's their fault. They'll start questioning themselves. They'll start thinking they've done something wrong. And when you don't take ownership over it, that's what people do. And then the other person gets frightened. Then the other person gets frantic. Then the other person's thinking speeds up. And then their frailties come out. And all of a sudden, you've got two people's frailties. Okay. Well, if the other person is adamant about pursuing the issue when you're feeling low, I'm going to suggest that you've probably got a history of not taking ownership of that. And so they get panicky, right? So if you start saying this consistently, and then when people have calmed down, you have the conversation and you come back and say, hey, I'm not ignoring you. All right. I'm really not. It's just that I know I'm going to say something dumb and you really need to understand. I'll come back and talk about it with you later. I will. So are you coming back and talking about it when you're feeling better, or is it just being swept under the rug? Are you really owning how you're showing up? Because if you start doing that consistently, people will stop pursuing you. But people generally pursue another person when they don't feel heard, when they don't feel acknowledged. All right. So there's a few things to take into account there. And Franca, I've made my ADHD partner the center of my world, and I'm now severely fatigued and have been several weeks. What do you mean by the center of your world, Franca? Can you explain that to me a little bit more, honey? Because what I hear when you say that is this. My well-being depends on how my ADHD partner is. My well-being depends on how they're doing. My well-being depends on whether they're calm. My well-being depends on how organized they are. My well-being depends on them, right? Right. That's why you're fatigued, honey, because your focus is on them. And you're outsourcing your well-being onto them. Because what you're saying is, I can't be okay until they're okay. I need them to be a certain way for me to be okay. As soon as you do that, right? That's right. It's exactly how you lose yourself, honey. Of course you will, because you've got no sense of you. You is now dependent upon how the other person is. This is how everybody loses themselves, right? The minute you outsource your well-being, you give all your power away. The minute you give all of your power away, of course you lose yourself, right? Of course you lose yourself, because you think the other person has to be a certain way for me to be okay. The minute you do that, you have no sense of self, because your sense of self is now dependent upon another person's moods, actions, words, right? So in order to get yourself back, honey, you have to change that dynamic. You have to change that dynamic, and it is absolutely possible, and it's easy. Why don't you send me an email, Franca, because I know they've been dealing with this for a little while, okay? My email address is send me an email. But yes, for anyone else who's feeling lost and has no sense of self, it's because in some way, somehow you are outsourcing your well-being and you're giving your power away, okay? It may not look like that to you, but I promise you that is exactly what is going on. Now, the minute you do that, it's exhausting, because you're you've got no bandwidth for anything. Everything's focused on the other person, and it depends on them being a certain way for you to be okay. Once you are in that dynamic, you absolutely lose yourself. Right? Now, the minute you lose yourself, you become exhausted, or your energy gets taken out one way, nothing is coming back, and you lose confidence in who you really are. You're no longer a sovereign being. Okay? This is very, very, very important. Okay? That's where well-being lies. That's where a sense of calm, connectedness, presence. These are the things that have us feel good when people have a strong, grounded sense of self. Now, I know I keep harping about relatable, but this is the number one thing people tell me out of doing that program. Oh my God, Fiona, I feel so grounded in who I am. I have a strong sense of self. It feels so good. Yes, it does. It is the best feeling. Okay? Because that is where resilience lies. That is where confidence lies. That's where you stop going round and round and round in your head, where you can be present. Because you've got to remember, as human beings, we are designed to be present in the now. This is where we get our best thinking. This is where love resides. This is well-being, resilience, joy, wisdom. All of it is right in the now. And it is the one thing people struggle with because they're so busy analyzing the past and they're trying to prepare for the future. When you really understand the greatest element of our design, you stop doing that because you realize you don't need to. It's completely unnecessary. And you realize there is a simpler, easier way to move through life. And it feels absolutely amazing. I promise you that. I see this on the group calls in Relatable every week. I run them twice a week, on a Monday at 10 a.m. and Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. And it doesn't matter what people bring to the table, we come back to this and see how helpful it is, no matter what it is. It's truly incredible. Okay, everybody, I have gone way over time. I've got a client messaging me. I have to go. Hey, Carly, thanks for saying hi. So lovely always to hear from you, darling. I hope that this has been really helpful, everybody. It's so nice to spend this time with you. I will be here at the new time, 12 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, which is generally 7 p.m. Pacific, and at the moment 10 p.m. Eastern. If I can make it an hour earlier, so it's 6 p.m. Pacific and 9 p.m. Eastern, I will. I just haven't been able to move my schedule around to do that yet, but I'm working on it. If you have a question, send it to hello@fionalukis.com.au. And if you want a deeper understanding of everything I'm teaching, join Relatable. It's an amazing program. You'll absolutely love it. We've got students all over the world, the most incredible community, and I promise you will get what you need. Okay, everyone, thanks so much for being here. See you next Friday. Ciao.